On behalf of the Professional Baseball Strength and Conditioning Coaches Society, I'd like to welcome you to the PBSCCS Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Messina. All right, everybody, today's episode of the podcast is going to be another group episode. I'll have the guys introduce themselves and then we'll dive in. So we'll go Joe first, Logan second, just name, org, position, and anything relevant, and then we'll get going.
Hey guys, my name is Joe Hudson. I'm the AA strength coach for the Boston Red Sox. This will be my first year in Portland. After 4 years in high A, between Salem and then last year Greenville, our high A affiliates switched. So 5 years with the Sox. This will be my first in AA.
And Logan Jones here. I am the AA strength coach with the Arizona Diamondbacks in Amarillo, Texas. I'm from the Raleigh area of North Carolina. I'm going into my 5th season with the Diamondbacks, and thanks, Chris, for having us on this afternoon.
Guys, so today's theme is going to be Strength Coach of the Year. So I've done a bunch of these as individual ones. I've never done a group one, so I'm intrigued to see how this goes. But first and foremost, as always, congrats. It is a peer-voted award, and obviously your peers think very highly of you guys. So, or as Joe said, he paid them off. So congrats on Strength Coach of the Year at your given affiliates. But my first question for you guys is just, you've talked about being in professional baseball for a while now, and what did you learn in the previous positions or in previous seasons that helped you to be successful this year?
Yeah, I can kick us off here. I'll just say that I consider myself still, although experienced at this point, still relatively young in my strength and conditioning career. So I'll say that to kick it off, like internships really set the stage for me. Mine were different. I did one at the University of Kentucky and one at Wake Forest University. But they were both valuable in themselves. They kind of opened my eyes to various philosophies and showed me that there isn't one right way to do things. So I think that it just kind of generated an overall awareness. And what does Eugene Bleecker say? He says, everything works and everything sucks. And that's kind of what I figured out in my internships. I think through my time with the D-backs, I've kind of realized like maybe this one thing that I thought was the Holy Grail doesn't work in this one environment or in this one setting or scenario. So I think my internships played a huge role. And then I think also my first couple of years in professional baseball taught me many lessons. I'll say probably the biggest one is just I came to the realization that I've got to figure out how I can positively influence all people, regardless of their background, language. We have everything in common. We have nothing, etc., to the greatest extent. And I think if I can do that, then I've done my job. And you guys know we're preaching to the choir here. I think that there's a unique set of demands in professional baseball. So those two things for me, my internships and then my time with the Diamondbacks for sure have kind of molded me into where I am today, going into my 5th season.
Yeah, agreed for sure. I think the biggest thing for me is perspective changes. Just throughout my career in strength and conditioning, which this will be like my 10th year since graduating from college, and it's really just seeing how I've changed and like how my perspective has changed over the course of my life and in my own personal life, and the relationships I've had with my family and friends, and having kids and things like that have all kind of changed my perspective and allowed me to see things from a bigger perspective than, just kind of when you're younger, focusing in on really like the nuts and bolts of the X's and O's of strength and conditioning. And, it's just seeing what things work and what things don't work based on your setting, like Logan said, and, applying those things and just understanding that, there's not one right way to do things. And it's all very contextual and situation specific.
So both of you bring up specifically understanding professional baseball, and talking off camera, we were kind of getting into that a little bit, and I was ranting about, how certain things work in some places, and then, you have to take everything with a filter that you see on social media or anything that you read in articles and whatnot. Just the realization is that professional baseball is very different than the college setting. It's very different than high school. It's very different than private setting. And obviously you guys have been able to navigate that appropriately, that, again, that your peers think very highly of you. Do you have advice for others who are looking to be successful, specifically at an affiliate? Just, something that may be different, even from like doing the AZL to an affiliate, like things that are going to make you successful, specifically relevant to an affiliate in minor league baseball.
Joe, kick us off.
All right. I think the biggest thing overall, and something I've tried to get better at year after year, is trying to communicate with the other strength coaches when they come to town or when you're at their place. And, obviously I think we all have those intentions of being able to do that. And sometimes it's not always realistic based off of our schedule and the demands and needing to be in the weight room and need to be at a stretch or conditioning or whatever to pop over and, talk shop with the other strength coaches. But I think that's something I really put a focus on this past season, was just getting over the first day and introducing myself and talking with them a little bit more. And I think in years past, I've always had those aspirations to do that, but it didn't always happen. And I made it a point this year, being at a different affiliate, we have a little bit different setup. So it was a lot easier to kind of bump into the strength coach where I was at before in Salem. Everything's separate on both sides, and you don't really cross paths with people as much. But in Greenville, we shared a hallway, so it was a lot easier. And I think that definitely was a contributing factor. But I think overall, the biggest thing is just being able to communicate with them and help create a relationship, and also just understand that on the flip side of it, when you go on the road, you don't know where you are. You don't know the setup, and you don't know what's around, and things like that, I think help a lot, just to be able to provide that information and help the other strength coach have as much success as they can when they come to your affiliate.
Yeah, those are some great points there, Joe. I'll echo that as well. And I think you're right. I think it largely depends on what your setup is at your affiliate. Like, I would like to think that at the upper levels of the minor leagues, like, access to resources is going to be a little different than they are at the lower levels of the minor leagues. And that may be a guide for you to, you may need to adjust your lines of communication or your avenues or your methodologies to match those demands. So to kind of piggyback off of what you said, I think the communication thing is super important. I think when we're talking about operating as a team at an affiliate, I think that communication with skill and support staff on your own team is essential. That's kind of your lifeline. That's your team. That's who you have April to September. I think creating loose routines will help with productivity. So I kind of emphasize the loose there, just because we know that the ability to adapt and adjust on the fly it's the name of the game. It's the environment that we live in. And if you're not able to possess that adaptability, that agility, then it's going to be very difficult to be successful in professional baseball, for sure. I'll say as a strength coach, but for sure in professional baseball. And then the last thing I've got is just overall awareness. So, like, understand what other things are going on at the affiliate. So what's going on from a workload standpoint on the field? What does the travel demand look like? What are other forms of stress that are like input to our guys that maybe we don't have control over? And those things kind of will help create context, if you will, for maybe some of our decision making and some of our navigation of the turbulent waters and finding success at the affiliate. Those are things I think across the board are going to be important, but for sure professionally, I think that, like, being a productive strength coach in major or minor league baseball, Chris, as you mentioned, is going to look a lot different than it may look at the high school collegiate setting.
So I was having this conversation today with one of our coaches, actually, and he was asking me about the voting process and how it's determined, like, who wins strength coach of the year. And because the reality is, like, the other strength coaches in the league don't see us coach in the weight room. Like you might see somebody run stretch. You might see them in the dugout during the game, but like the biggest thing is usually you just communicate with each other. Like you both had mentioned. And my first year in AA, our athletic trainer grabbed me and was like, hey, every series when the team comes, we're going to go over on the first day, just say hello and then get familiar with them and if they need anything. And it always stuck with me. So every year I was in AA, AAA, it was like every first day of the series, I would shoot a text over, hey, we're going to come over, say hello. If you need anything, let me know. Here's my number. And I think for me, it helped having the podcast because I could actually like set up episodes with the other strength coaches and get a deeper dive and just talking with them and talking shop. But, you know, we'd go out to dinner or, you know, just go hang out somewhere and just get to know each other. And I think in terms of specifically like winning the Strength Coach of the Year award, like that probably helps a lot, right? And it's like maybe like it doesn't feel genuine sometimes, but I feel like if you're, you know, you're genuine with the other strength coaches and you want to connect and you want to talk shop and all of that, like they'll do it. Other strength coaches will do it because we're all in the same boat, right? Like we're all riding the buses. We're all dealing with the players when they're grumpy. Like we all are in the same, especially at the lower levels, like the limited resources and anything. And then specifically to your points, Logan, I think those are more of like making you successful within your own clubhouse. Right, those are the things that the other strength coaches are not going to see. They might not see you communicating with the baseball staff. They might not see that, you know, your team just had 15-hour bus ride, 2 extra inning games, and you're trying to figure out when to do gym stuff. Like that's all the stuff that they might not see, but it'll help you as an individual and as a professional find success in that clubhouse. So like I think both of those points are relevant. Joe's with the communication more to like winning strength coach of the year and like being outwardly viewed from other strength coaches, and Logan's more internally like how your baseball staff views you, how your players view you, and both of those are very relevant, very important.
Yeah, Chris, I'll just kind of add there. I think that's an important point too, because I think a recognition that we're all kind of rowing the boat in the same direction, if you will. Like, yes, we're all employed by different organizations, and we are in charge of different sets of groups of athletes at various training ages, and maybe they speak English, maybe they don't. But at the end of the day, like we likely all got into strength and conditioning for one reason or another. And I would say that we're more alike than different in that regard, if you really hammer it home. So I think that, like, to Joe's point of going and making yourself available and communicating with these coaches, I think that it's a two-way street, right? It helps you when you go on the road, Joe, like you mentioned, and then you can flip that around and you help whoever when they come to your home city. And now all of a sudden things seem to work a little more seamlessly when you go on the road. And that makes, in turn, that's going to make your job easier. And it's going to increase your level of effectiveness with your athletes if you do have those resources available, if the timeline makes a little more sense, if you don't have an 8-hour bus ride followed by a, you know, whatever, 2-hour mobility or like nobody got any sleep. Like there's all these different variables that are flying around, if you will. But Chris, great point there.
Yeah, agreed. Any way that you can get some help, you know, or have a little bit of help or have a little bit of the work done for you when you get somewhere is just going to make, you know, because we're all in that same position when you get there and it's like, okay, what are we going to eat? What's around? You know, having that stuff beforehand or even like when sometimes I'll reach out to a coach that I know has been there, even though they're not at our place right now, and just say, hey, you were in wherever last week. What'd you guys do for food? And getting a list from them, I think helps a ton. We found a ton of great catering places just through those things. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're all just trying to provide for the players and stuff like that. One other thing I'll say that I started doing this year is watching how the players respond during stretch and during, you know, conditioning and stuff like that, just to get a gauge on, you know, how the other strength coaches are, you know, kind of keeping their players engaged. You know, you can see sometimes we've all been in a situation where it's like, all right, we got to do this today. And players are like, oh, you know, crap, we got to do this. We don't want to do that or whatever. And, you know, sometimes I look across and guys are, you know, they're running shuttles and they're freaking happy about it. I'm like, what the hell? You know, what is he doing over there that's making them happy? He must be doing something right. So, you know, that's one thing I started to look at. And definitely base some of my voting decision when it comes time for that on is how the players are responding and how engaged they look as well.
Yeah, one of the points that I don't want to be missed there, Joe, is like you're talking about food, right? And like different strength coaches in different organizations have different daily requirements, right? Like some organizations have a nutritionist that travels with them, so the strength coach doesn't have to do anything food-wise. Some of them don't, and they have to do all the food. Some are in the middle. Same with sports science, same with strength and conditioning. There's a ton of different duties for strength coaches based on what org they're in. And so one, if you can make it easier for yourself, like that's awesome. But two, if you can take some of that burden off the other strength coach, that works too. Like for instance, anybody that's listening that has not experienced the minor leagues, right? You have a gym on the home side, but you don't on the road. And so on the road, you have to go on a gym bus. Well, a lot of guys are not happy to be up at 10, 11 a.m. And then go back, eat lunch, and then go to the field. Especially when you get to the higher levels, there's older guys that have big league time that, they're just not really into going on the gym bus. So it's kind of customary to like offer your home gym to the other team, right? And what that does is, hey, if some of these guys don't come on the gym bus, like I can pop them in for a quick 30 minutes to an hour during the other team's BP. And then when you go on the road, like you can use their gym, and some of your guys that don't go on the gym bus can go in there, right? Like like we said, it's just, we're all just in the same boat, especially in the minor leagues. We're all just trying to help each other get through because there is so much on our plate, right? When you go to the big leagues, most places are going to have 2 strength coaches, a mental skills coach, a nutritionist, a chef, a sports scientist. So those duties get dispersed appropriately. But in the minor leagues, a lot of times the strength coach is taking on a really, really large role with all of that other stuff. And so if you can have somebody that makes it a little easier for you, like Joe, you said with the food situation, like when I was in AA, one of the guys would put together a list of all the places that they had deals with. And when we came to town, like, hey, you can use this. And it made my life easier because I didn't have to go searching around restaurants. I just had a set list that I knew the teams had worked with already. So I didn't want that point to get missed because it is specific to minor league baseball and it might not apply in other settings.
Chris, do you mind if I add something from a personal standpoint on success at an affiliate? I know we've talked a lot on the like maybe operating day to day at an affiliate.
Go ahead, man.
Okay, I was just thinking. I feel like I overlooked maybe the time away from the field or the time away from the stadium, time away from our players. I think from a personal standpoint, like it's critical that you set aside personal time or whatever you want to call it away from the stadium. Prioritize the time that you do get with family and friends, because the truth is we don't get enough of it, whether that be virtual time or if that's someone's visiting. Make that a priority. I feel like a lot of people, I've just observed that a lot of people kind of learn the hard way with that. I feel like people look back, man, I really wish I would have spent a little more time with so-and-so, my wife or my parents or my kids when they came into town. And so I feel like that's a big thing for me. And then the last thing is just find things that you enjoy outside of your work time. So if that's just like getting outside and exercising, going on hikes, reading, whatever it is for you, I think that's important. And maybe that is an hour or two set aside each morning or an hour or two a week or whatever that looks like for you and your city, your affiliate, your staff. I just felt like I rather overlooked maybe some of the things that were successful for me personally, which kind of set the table for it, like provided an environment for me to be successful at work.
Yeah, if you have the family right? Joe, you're going AA this year, and that was one of the big things we talked about is like you'll have more time around your family, right?
Yeah, it'll be huge to be able to, especially coming off of a year where I really didn't see them at all during the season. I'm really looking forward to that, being able to, spend some time with them, in the mornings and on this lovely Monday off day that we get. And it'll be great. One other thing that, just to continue on to this point that when you said that reminded me of during the season at affiliates, passing along some information to the strength coach when they're in town, like, hey, what are some things to do around here? Greenville, if anyone listening hasn't been there, is a beautiful city. It's amazing. and the park is right downtown. And I would actually suggest to the strength coaches when they would come to town, or when they would come for a gym, come on the gym bus over to the park, just plan on staying. Leave your stuff in your locker and walk downtown. It's right there. You come over for 11 o'clock for a gym bus workout until 12:30, and then just leave your stuff there and go for a walk downtown, because there's so many things to do and, awesome places to see. And it helps kind of break up the day and do something different other than kind of sitting in your hotel room that's 15, 20 minutes away, sometimes with nothing around. So that just, when you said that, Logan, made me think of, other ways we can help each other out too. Like, hey, there's a great hiking trail that's 10 minutes from here. If you can get there, I would definitely recommend doing that, or seeing this thing, whatever it is.
Portland will be really great for that for you. You're going from one really good city to the next.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about success, and obviously you guys are clicking on a high level at the field and away from the field. Is there anything that you would have done better or different now that you've had a chance to reflect on the 2021 season?
Yeah, I'll kick us off here. That was a tough one for me, because I feel like that there's always, for sure, without a doubt, there's always room for improvement no matter what. And I'll say that the recognition involved with this award was, I would say that it was unexpected for sure. And I do feel like that this award in particular is probably a team award. If I'm being honest, it's at least AT, S&C award. Just because support from staff is critical, like athletic trainer, manager, pitching coach, hitting coach, video, clubhouse staff, you name it. So all of these people have played into, I guess, the recognition involved with this achievement. With that being said, what can I have done better or different? I think I'm always in search of just trying to be as consistent as possible. So showing up my best self every day, no matter what. And that's difficult. I'll say that not allowing things that happen away from the field to come with you to work, and probably on the other hand, more often allowing things that happen at work to come home with me and into my conversation with people and my family or my friends, people that I care about. I'll say that there's definite room for improvement for me from a consistency standpoint, just being my best self every day. And I've never been the most patient individual either. So I feel like I'm a go-getter. And I just need to have an increased level of patience when shit hits the fan. Like, slow it down, figure out how to be as present as possible, and not get sped up. And I think that'll always be a work in progress. That's just how I'm wired. I feel like when something is like, hey, this is thing number one is on the to-do list, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to go do thing number one on the to-do list right now because I want to get it done. And sometimes it doesn't always happen that efficiently or that effectively. So those two things for me, consistency and then just like an ability to slow it down. Those are two areas of improvement in particular.
Yeah, I think coming up for me, obviously, spending a fair amount of time in high A and at the same affiliate, like I felt like I've learned a lot of things that that people don't necessarily get to see, like little intricate things about each affiliate that we go to in each city that we go to. That's kind of helped me refine my process and make things more efficient. Like, hey, I know we're going to go to this gym at this time because it's usually really busy at this time, or we should definitely not order from this this restaurant on this night because it's always busy. It's a super popular place. And so I think while maybe you don't necessarily want to stay at the same affiliate for a bunch of years, but I think it does help the process of a lot of things. So I know that's going to be a new challenge for me moving forward. Being at a different affiliate is just kind of learning those things, but developing new relationships and continuing to kind of refine that process as well, with how I go about meeting and talking to other coaches. And I'd really like to start to get to know more of the other staff members on other teams as well, communicate more with like the hitting and pitching coaches on other teams, and just like, talk baseball, talk shop when there's time. Obviously, like, we have our family, our baseball family on our side that we spend a ton of time with, but I just think the relationship side of things are crucial, especially when it comes to like career development, professional development is, especially I guess after this offseason, seeing how many different, coaching moves and the coaching carousel that's going on right now, and, the open positions that there are in the field in pro ball. You never know where someone's going to end up, and, a relationship that might be valuable to your development in, in furthering your career. So I think that's one of the things I want to continue to work on is just get to know more people within the game outside of strength and conditioning as well.
I'm going to chime in on this one because I take time to reflect on seasons for myself. And it kind of goes back like full circle to what you were talking about earlier, Joe, about like perspective changes on the life and the job. And I kind of tie that into what you were saying, Logan. It's just like finding a way to really like slow things down and like understand that today, if shit hits the fan, tomorrow life is still going to be okay, right? Like, and the other thing that you said, right, is like not taking things from home to work, not taking things from work to home. And I've always been really, really good at like separating, like before I go to the stadium, like when I drive in or walk in or whatever, like clear my mind, just get ready for work. But my problem has always been like I take the work back home. And this year, like my wife was with me the full season. So it was like really finding ways to like turn work off and like spend time with her. And I think that's a really difficult challenge for a lot of us because we're kind of all in that same boat, right? Like we want things to get done effectively. And like the game didn't go well, especially like being in the big leagues. I think that was a big change for me, was like the games mean a lot more up here. Like they still mean something in the minor leagues, but a lot of it is more development in the minor leagues. Like here, winning matters every single night. And so like if a game didn't go well, like I'd be upset. And it's like I didn't play the game. Like I have no control of what happens in the game. So like I need to calm down and like just take a breath and understand like tomorrow we're gonna do as best as we can and we're gonna try again. And like once I was able to like wrap my head around that a little bit, and again it was my first year in the big league, so like everything's new and exciting, but it made my home life better. And I think the point that you made, Logan, is something that like a lot of strength coaches need to hear and like take time and look in the mirror and understand like it's a bigger picture than just what happens today or what happens in this moment. Or like your manager comes to you and he's like, hey, stretch was supposed to be at 4, let's do it at 350. And you're like, I got guys in the weight room until 4. Like it just calm down. Like stretch is going to get done, whether it's done at 4 or 350, right? Like everything is going to happen. And at the end of the day, the game's going to be played at 7 o'clock, barring weather or whatever else. You know what I mean? But like the game's going to happen that night, right? Like, so take the step back, calm down, understand that it's okay. And like in the big picture of life, like it's all right. Like there are specific days where I was like in the hotel, very upset about something that happened during the day. And then I'm like, am I going to remember this at the end of the year? And it's like, if not, why is this bothering me? So it's like, just changing your perspective on things. And again, like life and job. And part of it is just you're around more, you're gaining experience, you're aging, like you're seeing things through a different lens. But I like both points there. And to Joe's point, to not neglect it, like I think meeting with baseball coaches is becoming really important in the game. Like I think the game is going to that direction of like the strength coach is not just the strength coach, right? It's probably more of like a quote unquote performance coach. And like being able to have relationships with the baseball staff, I think is super important. Like I personally, I think you have to be able to talk the game to stick around and be successful. And like I read something the other day, I think it was Max Schmarzo. I love all of his stuff, but he was like, we complain about sport coaches not understanding strength and conditioning, but sport coaches should be able to to complain like when we don't understand the sport, right? Like, so if you're not actively trying to understand the sport, and the best way to do that is just talk to other coaches, like I think you're missing a huge point in today's modern version of baseball.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. That's a great point. And I something you said there about I don't want to misrepresent what you said, but basically you're just the evolution of year 1, year 2 to maybe now year 4, year 5, year 6, like things that just happen over time. I think back to my time season 1 with the Diamondbacks, 2018, I was assigned to the AZL. What was the AZL, the complex league at the time. And boy, like, were things spinning, right? You just kind of trying to figure out where you fit in and trying to keep your head above water and making sure that everyone has their warm-ups and their lift and their conditioning and like all these things that are like for sure non-negotiables. But like at the time, that's all that mattered. Man, I'm the strength coach. I got to make sure these things are kind of checked off the list. Now, looking back, finished up season 4, going into season 5. This next year going to be in Double-A. Now I realize like maybe there's a little more at play. Like, yes, these things matter. They're non-negotiables. Like, for sure, you need to be an effective strength coach, but you need to understand what are these other things that are like variables that are factors into their readiness to play, into their performance. What are things that are going on potentially away from the field that are affecting like how they show up in the conversation that you have. Like, I don't, and I'm not sure that, unfortunately, I'm not sure those things can be thrown in the microwave either. I think that in some instances it does take some experience and some time, and through conversation and through like an active search of like seeking out these different things that are at play, that where it is that you come to that realization. I don't know if you guys have like thoughts on that, but I was just thinking about my to this point a little over 4-year journey and going into season 5, and I'm thinking there's things that I understand and have a greater appreciation for now that I would have had no chance 18 and 19.
No, I think that's just a unique thing with our sport is like at the end of the day, when you look at what how long our season is and how much time we spend with them, like we spend more time with our athletes than any other strength coach does. College, private sector, like we were with them all day, every day from like February to September. So there's a lot more deeper relationships that play into that. Like you got to know a lot more about them because there's going to be more stuff that's that comes up to the table because you spend so much time with them. There's no way for them to kind of go away and express whatever issues they have at home, because like the baseball field basically is their home from February to September, from like noon to 11, 12 o'clock at night. So, we're far more than strength coaches in this game. And obviously we're lucky to be getting to a point where we have a support staff, and more organizations have a deeper support staff and more resources to put into that with mental skills and, nutrition and, analytics and all of that stuff. But I think at the end of the day, we still wear a good amount of that as, part of our responsibility. And, that's just not something you can find anywhere else in any other setting, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the experience thing is enormous in professional baseball. And like you said, Logan, I can think back to my first year in rookie ball and like how different I was just as a person and as a strength coach and as a, at the time we were dating, but now being a husband with my wife, I'm just a different person. I think a lot of that is just taking the time. And one of the things I had a big league interview a couple of years ago, and it was like, one of the things they told me was don't rush to get to the big leagues, right? Like be where you're at, appreciate where you're at, and understand that like you're going to grow, you're going to develop, and your thoughts are going to change. And like at the time I didn't like hearing that. I still don't like hearing it. I'm like you, I'm very impatient. Like I want to go get things, but like if I was in the big leagues 3 years ago compared to this year, like my experience would have been different, and like maybe I wasn't as ready as I thought I was. And so I think another thing to kind of touch on is just like, I know that like being where you're at is very important, and like being where your feet are, and like you can't overlook that. And I think we all should strive to get to the highest level of professional baseball, right? We should all want to be big league coaches, but at the same time, like if your head is in the clouds thinking about the big leagues, like you're gonna miss being where you're at, right? And there's tons of valuable lessons to be learned where you're at, whether it's AAA, AA, high A, low A, the Dominican, AZL, it doesn't matter. Like there are valuable lessons that are going to make you a better strength coach and a better person, that if your head is in the clouds, you're going to miss those, right? And you're just going to keep making the same mistakes. And to honestly, personally, a lot of it is like away from the field, right? Like when I was younger, I didn't care. It was like, I'm only a strength coach. if I can't text you, I can't text you. If I can't talk to you for a week, like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm grinding. I'm trying to get to the big leagues. And then as I get older, I'm like, this person like really does care about me. My wife really does support everything I do and all my craziness. And like, I should probably appreciate her a little more, you know? So now like decisions I make, she's involved with, and like, it's just been a lot healthier for my relationship, and having a better relationship at home makes me a better strength coach at my given affiliate or wherever I'm at. So just some food for thought.
For all you young coaches listening.
Yeah, we're all young coaches on this call. Just
for all you super young coaches.
Yeah. I don't want to ever get old. I don't ever want to get old, so I need to be young. No, guys, what are we working on this off season to prepare for next season? What things are you thinking on that are going to help you be successful again next year?
You know, I'm going to piggyback you, and sorry to cut you off, Logan, on this one, just because I think what you just said is kind of falls right into where I'm at the moment. I'm reading a book about raising kids. I have 3 kids, 3-year-old twins and a 5-month-old daughter. So I'm reading a book called Raising Men by Eric Davis. He's a former Navy SEAL and trained some very high-level Marines and other SEALs and things like that. And it's, you know, I'm reading it because I want to be a better father and help provide a solid path for my kids. But every single lesson that I'm reading in this book also applies to me as the strength coach with the athletes that I'm working with. And it's funny because every morning I get up and I read a chapter before I work out and before my kids get up for the day. And every single morning I read it with the intention of helping be a better father, but it's making me a better coach as well. Cause I'm like, this lesson applies to the athletes I'm working with and molding them to be, you know, quality young men and, you know, good athletes, and eventually down the road, maybe be husbands and fathers themselves. And so that's one of the things I'm reading that book right now. And I'm doing the Altus Foundations course right now. I'm a couple of years late on that, but I'm going through it. And those are my 2 big ones. I got a couple books, that one that I'm reading, and then I would really like to, before the off season's over, finish the new NSCA textbook, the sports science textbook, just because I think our game's heading that way at a pretty rapid pace, and I feel like we need to be up to speed on that from a strength perspective, as you know, as we start to tie in more sports science and things like that. I'm sure organizations are starting to bring in more sports scientists, and you know, our field is evolving. You know, there's a lot, like I mentioned earlier, that it seems like there's so many jobs open this year, and I think that's just a testament to what strength coaches have done in the past to provide value for player development. And I think we're seeing, you know, more positions become available instead of just your standard one strength coach at every affiliate and that's it. You know, we're getting, you know, extra strength coaches and rehab strength coaches and sports scientists, and you know, this whole slew of like supporting staff to help the end goal of improve your player development. So I think that's an important one, the sports science book. And those are my big ones. I've learned over the years not to get too excited about trying to take on too many projects at once. So that's probably going to be it. And to be honest, I probably won't even get through all of that. And then there's an Isometrics course by a guy named Jeff Dolan that I'm gonna get into hopefully next week when I finish this book.
Joe, what was the name of the book again?
It's called Raising Men.
All right, sounds like a good one.
It's a good one, yeah.
I need to hop on that one.
Yeah, it's on my list now.
All right, sweet. Yeah, that's I'm glad you kind of kicked us off with that. That's right down my alley too. I think what am I going to be working on? I think I'm always looking to improve just my communication ability, connect, really just the whole meet them where they are type thing. Really, I would just categorize it really as the ability to listen and understand where people are coming from and maybe how those previous experiences and exposure are creating their biases and how they show up. And along with that kind of, you have to understand who you are too, and maybe why you have certain thought processes that you have, and kind of how those show up in conversation with people too. Because I think something that I've become more aware of is just how I come across to other people. Recently, that's not something that I had when I was a student or during my internship experience. And had I had that knowledge, I think I would have been a better student. I would have been a better student athlete. I would have been a better intern. But I also think that that's probably part of just the journey that we are all on, is just that there's not going to be a perfection. Rather, it's just going to be like continued self-improvement, and whatever your best self is, whoever you envision as your best self. I think kind of tackling different avenues, different ways, different challenges that you can take on to challenge the status quo of who you are and who you show up as. So I'd say the communication, the connection thing for me, and then I think now in my 5th season, I think just there's going to be a larger emphasis for educating newer and younger staff members, and I don't mean younger by age, because I'm young in age, but I guess I mean young in experience, and getting those individuals up to speed on the philosophies and methodologies of maybe strength and conditioning in general, but for sure how we do things with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and really it's just in search of avenues in which I can bring value and contribute. And I think my way of doing that is just making myself available. Like, how can I help you? What it is that you want for yourself, or what is it that you want for yourself, and kind of what's your game plan on how you get there, and in what way can I serve you or be helpful in your path and you achieving your goals? Because at the end of the day, I feel like if like I mentioned, if each of us are kind of our own best version of ourselves, in turn, yes, we're going to be a better strength coach. We're going to be a contributing team member of the strength conditioning, the performance team, the sports medicine team, the organization, et cetera. I think the list goes on and on, because we're really a part of many different teams. So I think those two things in particular, just the communication aspect of it, and then making myself available to those people that do have questions, and understanding it's a two-way street as well.
Yeah, I think the idea of like mentoring the younger, like you say, newer to your staff coaches is something that's become more and more appealing to me as I've gotten older and been around a little bit. And like, we have some positions open, right? So I think about when these young guys are going to show up, maybe it's their first spring training and their eyes are going to be wide and they're going to be all, in love with professional baseball and overwhelmed. And like, I just think about how I felt the first time I showed up to Pirate City, right? Like, I got hired in the middle of spring training. My first day I showed up and it was full go. And I was like, oh my God, I need somebody to hold my hand. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I just think about like, if you do it right and you show them the right way, and like they fall in love with professional baseball, like in 5-6 years, whatever, when they move up, like they're going to remember that you treated them right. And it's just cool to like see that next evolution of coaches, right? Like I did an interview with one of our former interns the other day. He works with the Rangers now. He's moving up in the system. And it's like, it's just cool to see his growth. And like, it's the same with players, right? Like, after you've been in an organization for a while and you have those young players and they move up and you just see them develop into like grown men and like full grown baseball players, you're like, wow, this is like, it's kind of cool to watch and like think about where you were. So like I like that idea, right? Is like developing that next group of strength coaches that are up and coming and having that opportunity. And I know you'll kill it. I know you'll teach them the right way and show them the ropes and everything, but it's just interesting to think about like that next generation that's coming up, and like we have a big influence on them, and like hopefully it's probably our responsibility to make sure that we do it right.
Your strength coach family tree.
The tree gets bigger and bigger, hopefully. So guys, thank you for coming on. Thank you for spending time with me. Again, congrats on the Strength Coach of the Year award. I know we joke that you paid people off, Joe. You didn't tell us how much you paid, but regardless, it was enough to get it for you. So
a grand or two, maybe.
I got to keep it a secret because I can't have somebody outbid me next year.
Yeah, exactly. We went over all the stuff, but no, guys, on a serious note, thank you for coming on. Congrats on your award, and I wish you success for the upcoming season as well.
Thanks
a lot, Chris.
I appreciate it, man. Joe, have a good one.
You too.
All right, everybody, that concludes our episode with Joe and Logan. I hope you enjoyed this one. It's always good to hear other coaches who are having success discuss and kind of reflect on the ways that made them find that success. And so I think this was a good episode for everybody. 3 things that I took from the guys in this episode: prioritize your family time as much as you can, create loose routines but be prepared to make changes, and develop relationships with sport coaches to help get everyone on the same page. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll talk to you again on the next one.